My name is Felicia Fahey, and I'm very pleased to be here today with my colleague, Kate Givens. And as you all know, I am the director and founder of Fahey Associates, and Kate and I will be, and Jamie will be directing you all through the college application season this year. And every year is really different. And so it's always kind of an exciting start to join here with everybody and start to look forward into our process together. So we'll go ahead. We're going to be providing a slideshow. So I'm going to go ahead and share that with you in just a moment. We'll go through the slideshow and then we'll be having questions and answers at the end. So if you don't mind putting your questions in the Q&A, feel free to add them at any time. We will be prioritizing questions that really apply to everyone. So if you have any particular questions about your student or students, if you have any particular questions that come up in the webinar, please be sure to email us and we'll get back to you immediately. Please send all emails to hello@Fahey Associates. There is always someone in there checking the communications. If a question needs to be particularly flagged by someone in particular, let's say Jamie or Kate or I, we are constantly in contact as a team and we'll be able to forward the message to that person. But in most instances, we're able to, one of us will be able to answer your question immediately. Okay, so without further ado, I will go ahead and share my screen here. We're going to be looking at some websites as well, and also at the college tool that we are releasing in the next month or so. Okay, Kate, I'm just going to check with you to make sure that the presentation is viewable right now.
It is not.
Not. Okay, there we go. All right, here we are. So welcome, everyone. Again, we are going to be going over a few different areas today. First, we're going to talk about sort of trends in the college admissions process, what we saw last year and what we're seeing this year. As you can imagine, last year, the big topic of conversation was ChatGPT, less of a topic this year. We'll also be introducing you to the program, so where to find materials, the timeline, how we'll be working with your family. And then we'll be diving into how students can be most effective in this process, and we'll be looking at how to do an effective college research and how to be efficient about it. You can spend hours and hours of time. We basically have 4 steps for you, and then a bit about college visits. And then finally, we'll be talking about approaching the essays. So one of the things that we saw last year, so post-COVID, the essays went through quite a transformation. And what we've been seeing over the last few years is a change in the questions. Colleges really want to be hearing students talk about their interests, their impact on their community or their peers, and their identity. So the identity question had actually disappeared for a few years, and it has returned. And that identity question is, tell us about the community you come from or the background that shapes who you are. And this is often a question that can be kind of intimidating for students because they think, oh, well, my identity is like pretty straightforward, not that different from my peers. But actually, everyone has a very unique identity, and we'll be working with you to kind of sort that out and learn how to present yourself. There's been quite a bit of flux in admissions since 2016, but especially since COVID. And then the big event last year was the affirmative action ruling, which has brought a lot of scrutiny to the admissions process. And many of the practices in admissions are now under question and critique. One of the big ones that many of you may be aware of is that the power of legacy is waning. Some schools like Amherst and Johns Hopkins no longer use legacy in their admissions process. Many colleges still do. Stanford still does. Harvard, Princeton, many of these schools are still using legacy. But what is unclear, and hopefully will be clear to us by the end of this season, is how much power legacy has. So given that change, it's really important that you are making data-informed decisions and that you're building a sound college list. And we'll be talking a bit more about that, but really that's the focus for the winter. And it is the focus of our first family meeting. And it is the most important undertaking over the next few months, is to really build a sound college list, to research the colleges that will make up that list. And then you'll be turning that list into us at the end of June. The other thing that we've seen is that impact is really king in a time of tremendous social upheaval and social justice movements. It's really important to colleges that students are making an impact on those around them. There are also a lot of questions and issues to address in our society and in our environment today, as we know. So having a role playing, being a change maker, that term has been around since 2016, playing a real role in your school, in your community. It can be an influence that you have nationwide. It doesn't have to be. It can be in your neighborhood or in your family. But colleges want to see that you're committed to having an impact, that you've made progress in having an impact, and that you've played a leadership role in some way. This is also a topic that can, at this point, especially as students are starting their junior year, can be a question of concern. Sometimes students wait as long as August to think about how they're having an impact, and that's really too late. So if you have any questions about whether you are making enough of commitment and doing enough, we will be discussing that with you in your CAP Family Meeting 1 and looking at the ways that you can level up if necessary. And again, I also want to emphasize here that leadership doesn't necessarily mean being a president. And colleges are being very clear about this, that leadership means many array of things. It may be that you're the one that makes sure that everybody is feeling that they're being heard in a group, or it might be that you're the one that's taking care of details in the background. There are a lot of ways to have an impact, and there are a lot of ways to lead. And most students are using their own personalities to have an impact. So whatever you're doing, there's a way in which you're using your own skills. And that's the way that you're also being a leader. So we're here to help you make sense and interpret and really present yourself in the best possible light. It's one of the things that we love doing. We're educators. We got into the educational space because we love working with young people and helping them reach their potential. So that's one of the things that we'll really be focusing on with you. The last 2 years, we saw quite a change in the questions, and we saw quite a few new questions. Colleges are asking students to engage with quotes. So for example, last year, a couple colleges actually asked students to engage with a quote from Maya Angelou and to incorporate that quote in an answer of an essay. There are more essays. We thought with ChatGPT last year that we would see perhaps the waning of the essay, or perhaps the emergence of a in-time, real-time essay. None of those things really happened. What we did see is that there are more questions. They might be shorter, or they might be more nuanced. So that's been very interesting. Again, the identity question has come back and is a question that I would say probably maybe 15% of schools were asking this year, and for the first time. So that was really interesting. Other changes: goodbye test optional. Even if a college is stating that they have a holistic process and they remain test optional and they're very positive about it, we're really suggesting to everyone and recommending that you take a test. That message, one of the difficulties of having a admissions page about requirements is that you're talking to a very diverse group of students and you're trying to reach them all. And we've been seeing a real change in the admissions patient, the discourse of admissions pages and the way that they're speaking to a much broader audience. So our job is to help you navigate that and make sure that you're reading between the lines. So we recommend taking the SAT or the ACT. The SAT has gone adaptive and it's going digital. So big changes here. We highly recommend if the ACT isn't going well for you, that you try the adaptive SAT and see if it's easier. We love Compass Education tutoring. So, and this is not doing test exam and preparation is not what our business is built on, but Compass Education focuses on this. They do a lot of research and they have a great blog. So if you're interested in seeing what they're saying about test optional and what they're saying about the new SAT, we highly recommend going to their blog. You will have this link in the slides so you can check it out. Test optional is a movement that's been going on for many decades, and there are colleges like Bates and Bowdoin, Colby, Bard. There are a ton of schools that have been test optional for a very long time. And then there are schools that have just joined the test optional movement and are remaining test optional. If you are very serious about going test optional, then you should take a look at this list, which basically shows all of the test optional colleges that are out there. We do want you to check in with us and just make sure that there isn't a college that you've added to your list that we're not completely convinced that they actually want you to forego a test score. They might actually prefer to see one, but again, in the discourse of their admissions page, they're saying that they're test optional. STEM majors are increasingly impacted. As you all know, this is an ongoing trend. Computer science especially is very impacted, and it's especially impacted in state schools. And my understanding of this and the way that I see it is that each state is trying to make sure that they are creating space for their students in computer science. We see out of state, there are very low rates, between 3 and 6%. But even in state, Cal Poly, for example, has a 3% admit rate for computer science. So if you've been working with us already, we've been having this conversation with you from the get-go. We recommend looking at different majors like applied mathematics, data science. Berkeley just opened an entire college dedicated to computer science and data science. They did this before the admissions process last year. So we're very excited to see how that plays out. But in general, if you are planning to apply to computer science, we need to look at that very carefully in terms of your overall strategy, because if you're applying to schools in a 3% admit rate, you're basically applying to a bunch of super reaches and your chances of getting in are very slim. So things are changing. There are colleges opening up new. Wisconsin opened up a new informational science college. Every year, colleges are trying to accommodate this growing need and development in our society, but it's not something that can happen overnight. If you have major strength, we'll be talking to you about this in your family meeting 1. If there's a major that you've been preparing for and you have prepared for it both in your coursework and outside of your coursework, in your extracurriculars, then you're going to show a very clear pathway for that major. If you're still considering majors and you're not really sure, or the major that you're considering, let's say biology, is not the subject that you're strong in. So let's say that you have all A's on your transcript, but you have B minuses in biology. If you choose biology as a major strength or a major in your application, it's not a super strong strategy. So that's something else that we'll be discussing with you. Our program, we're really here to take students to the ridgeline. It's one of my favorite places geographically, to be in this place where you can look out and see how you got to the ridgeline and where you're going and where you might go next time. So we're doing this with students. Again, we're educators. We're really committed and passionate about this work because we enjoy helping students step into the confidence of who they are and look at all the distance they've come, and also look at the opportunities for where they have to go. So that's what we're focused on. And we're doing that not only in our consulting, but especially in the essay program. So we can only do this with the help of the student. We can't fill out your applications or decide who you are or decide what your strengths are. We cannot write the essays for you. So as I'll talk about in just a moment, it's really important that you also kind of claim this path with us and make sure that you're also on the ridgeline with us and doing that work of assessing the information and helping us get to know you as best as we possibly can, and being as honest as you can so that we can help you to produce the very best quality in your applications. So we have a very strict timeline. We will keep you on it. We managed to help all of our students complete their applications by November 10th last year. It's something that we strongly believe in, and I'm going to tell you why. Students disappear. So I've been working in college admissions counseling since 2007. And what I noticed year after year after year is that students will disappear in the middle of November. And the reason they do is that school demands their full attention. They have projects, they have exams, and they're exhausted and they need to focus on school. So this is a terrible time for students to be focusing on their applications, and they basically ghost us. In December, they're taking final exams, and come December break, they are flat out drained, completely tired. Any attempt to do work at that time over the December break generally does not go well. They procrastinate. They usually show up on the 28th or the 29th, often on the 30th, to work with us with drafts that are just not in good shape, even final versions that are now getting really sloppy because they're tired and they're panicked and they've got the deadline to meet. So we don't work like that. And we don't want you to work like that. So this is why we've set these very firm deadlines, and you will thank us later. So this is sort of the overview. Winter and spring, again, we're focusing on that college list. We really want you to do research, and I'm going to talk about what that looks like in a moment. We're going to hold the family meeting with you before May. It's your decision to decide when you want to come in. If you're feeling that you don't have colleges yet that you want to go visit, and you're feeling pretty confused about how to pull together a list and how to even start thinking about a list, then you might want to come see us as soon as possible. If you already know there are a few colleges that are good match colleges that you feel pretty serious about that you would like to go visit, then it might be better for you to come see us after you've done those visits and you now have a better idea of where you might want to go to college, what kind of college you'd like to be on, given your experience of having been on campus. Some of you may have already visited campuses and you've got a clear idea. You're ready to start refining that list, so you should come in whenever you're ready. So again, the family meeting should happen before May 30th. So you'll see appointments on our schedule until then. And if you have any questions about this, you should definitely reach out to us. We call this a family meeting because we're asking parents to attend. It's very important that you're there. Obviously, the student needs to be there, but we are meeting and checking in with students throughout the spring and winter. So we will be talking about that actually in just a minute. The college list is due to us, a final college list. So this is one that we've reviewed and you're sure about. Final list is due June 30th. And then we will review that final list and get back to you with our final recommendation. Summertime is essay time, and we're asking that you dedicate 4 to 6 hours a week to writing your essays. We have some very serious work to do over the summer. Please do not travel all over the world. Generally, if you overstack your summer, your chances of doing well in these essays goes down. So it's important that you're with us, that we're getting to know you and building out the foundations of your essays. It's also important that you have something lined up for the summer that's related to what you're thinking of doing in college, so that you show that you have experience and preparation and interest. It's not just theoretical. It might be an internship. It could be a job. It might be community service, anything that's related to what you're thinking of doing. If you're enrolling in some kind of college summer pre-college program or a course, ideally you're taking that course or pursuing that program at a school that you might ED to. And this wouldn't be an Ivy, it wouldn't be a top 15 school. It would be a school like Boston College, Boston University, Northeastern, NYU. Any of the UCs are fine. University of Washington, any of the small liberal arts colleges that might offer summer programs, Carnegie Mellon, any of those schools. This will help potentially your ED decision if you're applying. So showing that you've been on campus, it gives you time to go to admissions office, gives you time to meet faculty. You might be able to get a really nice letter of recommendation from a professor at that school. So we highly recommend that you make these decisions carefully about your summer. And again, we're here to help you sort through that and make a decision that will work to your best possible application strategy. Essays are due September 30th. So I want to say that again. Essays are due on September 30th. That means everything's revised, everything's been reviewed, and they're now into us for very final review, what we call the final review complete on your essay document. This is very important because anything that needs to be changed last minute needs to happen on October. You will be putting your applications together on the weekend of the 20th, 21st in October so that everything can be in by the 26th. So the fall is the time for the filling of applications. It will start in August. The first week of August, the common application relaunches and goes live. So you can add the current version of your college applications for whatever schools you're applying to, and you fill those out, and then you send them the PDF to us, and we review it in preparation for CAP Family Meeting 2. Applications should be in, as I say, by the 26th. That gives us 6 days to call admissions if something goes wrong, if you can't apply, if there's an error, if you send your application and you get a response that something is missing. At least we have plenty of time to troubleshoot before the final deadline. Once the final deadline hits, admissions offices are generally like, sorry, the application has passed, the deadline has passed. So that's why we're applying early. By November 10th, we want all of your UCs, CSUs, any other applications that are due. Some of you might strategize to send those out in December. That's fine. You might not want to pay extra fees if you're hoping to get into a school early action or early decision, but we do ask that everything is ready to go. Okay, our program is very organized. We have prepared a shared folder for all of you. And Kate, can you see this okay? Is it showing up?
It is.
Okay, so all of you have a shared folder. You can find it by just typing in shared if you go into your drive up in the search box up here. Your shared folders contains various folders. If you've been working with us, you have your high school program documents. We're moving on to this college application folder, and we refer to it at many points in our program. Inside here, you're going to find the timeline and the checklist. And that one is a little more detailed than the one I just showed you on the slide. Mostly it has events, so the events that we're running, and reminders that we've already given you about the family meetings and completing documents or filling out the college list form. So this one is a little more detailed. At the very bottom, we are providing you with a checklist so that when you're filling out your applications, you can go through. You might be doing it in different stages, so this is a great way for you to keep track of where you are. But this document is also in that folder. We have an interview and video introductions so that when you're preparing, when we'll be preparing with you, we refer to that document. It gives you all the types of questions you might be asked. And then you'll be completing this activity list in preparation for Family Meeting 1. So over the next weeks or months, you'll want to complete this. Please look at the sample very carefully and also read the instructions. You're limited to 150 characters here, and you don't want to repeat what you've provided. So if you've said here, oh, I've done this activity in 10th grade, and I was the secretary of the robotics club, then you don't want to say in the description that you were the secretary of the robotics club in 10th grade. You've just lost the opportunity to say something more important about your role, about your responsibilities, and what you've done. So the description is really it's a sentence and a half. It's almost a haiku. So this is your opportunity to really show them what you've done in this activity. So don't repeat any information that you've already provided. One of the final things in here is the college decision matrix. This is a spreadsheet that families are using now that have worked with us last year. You basically can compare all of the colleges that you've been admitted to, and it helps you to kind of understand why you might choose one college out of the others at the very end. So just being able to sort things out. So that's the shared folder. And I've gone over these documents. You will also be providing us with the PDFs of your application inside of that folder. So you'll be loading them up so that we can review them. Everybody has them to look at when we have the Family 2 meeting with you. If we have any questions, we can dive into those PDFs together. Okay. Family meeting 1. So I'm going to pass it over to Kate. Kate's going to be talking us through the 2 family meetings, which are the pillars of our process.
Thanks, Felicia. So you should have already received an email with the items we're asking you to collect and complete before you schedule your family meeting 1. We want to have your transcripts, your test scores, your high school's college admissions data, and we'd like to get a first draft of your resume and your activities list, and also give us your preliminary college list and major. Once you've completed the CAP Family Meeting 1 form, we'll send you a link to book that meeting with us. We want everyone to book their family meeting by May 30th. It is a fair amount of work up front. It might take you a little bit of time, so plan ahead. The good news is this is the most data collection that you're going to have to do in this program, and the most work that you're going to be doing at once until you actually have to fill out your applications. So in the first family meeting, we're going to review your senior courses. We'll discuss major strategy. We'll discuss summer plans. We'll discuss your college list. We're also going to spend some time discussing those 3 I's: your interest, your impact, and your identity as a group, especially focusing on how they're going to relate to your essay strategy. After family meeting 1, with that discussion of those 3 I's fresh in your mind, we're going to send students a pre-writing workshop form where you're going to do some essay brainstorming. We're going to ask you to reflect on your interests and your identity and your impact and think of some concrete examples you can write about. We want everybody to complete that form by April 30th so that your college counselor can review that brainstorm and reach out if there are questions. It is possible that you won't have had that first family meeting by then. That's okay. We'll ask everybody to do their best on that brainstorm. And just keep your eyes peeled to our weekly emails or our monthly emails to make sure that you get that link. So the next family meeting is going to be between mid-August and the end of September. That's family meeting 2. Before family meeting 2, students are going to attend our Common App boot camp and complete their Common App applications. So during that boot camp, we give a lot of instructions and help you through some pretty common issues you might encounter and questions you might have. In the family meeting, we'll review those applications. We'll discuss and finalize your early decision and early action plans, and we'll go over your application strategy as a family.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kate. So we're very excited. We have been working on a tool for the last year that will help students to find colleges that really fit their criteria. As someone that taught in the college environment, university environment for many years, one thing that, and as in the position that we're in of helping students choose colleges, what we basically saw is that there are all of these criteria that are so important to students that aren't really showing up in these general searches that you find online. So we developed a tool that allows you to include the kind of criteria that are very important. So of course, there's the exam score, but then there are all of these criteria like how diverse is the campus? This is really important to students in the Bay Area. They really do care. Research opportunities. This is super important to students in the Bay Area as well. How stressful is the environment? Some students want a high stress environment because they like that and they thrive in it. Other students don't want to be in a high stress environment. They do better when the energy is a little more low key, right? Whether a school is conservative or progressive is a very important factor. Whether they offer a liberal arts focus, interdisciplinarity has become really important to young students, because this generation is really looking at, hey, all of these issues are connected. So we need to look at them from a financial standpoint, but also a cultural, sociological standpoint. So how can I do that? Vocation is also more important. Students are thinking outside the narrow focus of academe and looking more into, how can I study something that's going to take me straight out into the workforce? Urban schools have become very, very popular. In the last 3 years, we have had more requests to be in a large city than ever in the last 20 years. So we've included urban, which means that you are in a city environment, but we've also included near a large city, meaning a metropole like Los Angeles, New York, Boston. So you can, on a scale of 1 to 5, how important is that to you? Is it very important? Yes. Or is it not so important? Or somewhere in between, are you neutral? Near nature, this is another criteria that's very important. Last year, we had many students who were climbers, hikers, backpackers, surfers, and it was really important, or sailors. It was really important to be near a body of water or be near the mountains. And all of them ended up in places. They were either in University of Washington, Colorado College, Boulder, Boston University, and places where they could actually continue to do that activity that they really love, that gets them outside. Large student population is a big question. Students are really often really want to be in a large university, or they want to be in a smaller, more intimate environment. We'll be talking about this in just a moment. And then community engagement. So the way this list will work is that you will come in, you'll add your SAT or ACT score here. Part of the reason that we are, tool is not ready to go today, is that we have now access to the latest information on scores from last year, from 2022. So we need to include that information here. The data has really had an impact on admission. So we'll also be sharing in our follow-up a bulletin that we published on the change in exam scores during the test optional moment, and how that has affected the profile of colleges. So let's say that you have a 1420 SAT, you're very interested in diversity, you're mildly pretty interested. It's not necessarily the most important thing, but you're kind of interested in research opportunities, and you do not want a high stress environment. So we'll just start there. We won't go through the whole thing. You'll be able to play with this later. What you'll have down here as your results is a list of 10 schools in all 3 categories. So you'll have, in green, you're going to have schools that would be a match. In kind of the light yellow, or light green, you'll have schools that would be safety schools. And then in orange, you're going to have those reach schools. Underneath that, you'll have an extended list. So you'll be able to see a whole bunch of additional matches, safeties, and reaches that you might consider. And again, these are all schools that fit your criteria. So if you're filling out all those criteria, you're really zeroing in on what's going to be important to you. So we're really excited to get that tool out to you, hopefully by the end of February. One thing that we want to be really clear about is that the super reach schools have admit rates. Once you remove athletes, you remove artists, and you remove first generation students, and all of the other students that colleges are recruiting, the admit rate is somewhere around 1%. It's very, very low. So one of the things that we are being really clear with families about this year is that unless you really fit the criteria and there's a slight chance that you might be admitted, and we will be perfectly candid with you about that, we would like super reaches to be on your additional college list. And the reason for that is that we are trying to make sure that you are focusing on schools that you have a very good chance, or a good chance of getting into. and improving your chances for admission. And this is truly to make sure that you have options, that you're excited about many schools and not just one, because being excited about one school is suffering and it will lead you down a very difficult emotional path through this process. So we're really here to help you think broadly, dive in deep to that college list and see that there are a bunch of places out there that are great to attend. We've been checking in with our students from the 2022 cycle or 2023 cycle, and they're all having a ball, great experiences, and they're at wonderful colleges all over the United States. So there really are many options, and it's important that you're aware of that and you build a list that you can be really excited about so that the whole process is just much less stressful and that the rewards are good. We are in touch throughout our whole program. So we are checking in, we're texting students consistently. We are also sending out regular emails. So during the winter, we'll send out an email about once a month, maybe twice a month, to update you on where you should be, what's going on, any new news that we've heard, our news about, how did admissions go for our students last year. We will be texting students to make sure to see if they have questions about their college list. Maybe they say, yeah, hey, I looked at Northeastern. I really love that co-op program. Are there other colleges that have a cooperative program? We will hold meetings on demand with parents, with students. So please just let us know if you have any questions, be in touch with us. The best place to reach us is through hello@Fahey Associates, as I said earlier, and through this phone number, 650-246-4802. That is our hello line. Parents, we prefer that you email us. You usually have more complex questions, and we would like to leave the text line open for students. If there's an urgency, then please go ahead and reach out to us by text. But generally, students don't email us as much. They usually like to text, and that's great. So email is also great. If you're a student that likes to email, there's no problem. But this is the best way to reach us. We have a very a strong alert management system in place. So if a student is ghosting us, if a student is falling behind in their homework, we will make every effort to resolve this with the student first. If by 2 attempts or 3 attempts, we're still not getting the student on track, or the student hasn't responded to us, we will be reaching out to parents. So students, we're really here to work with you. We want to give you the benefit of the doubt. We know you're working like crazy. You have a busy schedule. You've got a lot going on. The junior year is stressful. So we know all of this, and we're really here to support you. We ask that you respond to us, because if you ghost us, then we can't be in contact. We don't know what's going on. And then we're really left to reach out to your parents. That also goes for showing up for your meetings, ready to go with your homework prepared, and meeting deadlines. So these are all the things that we're managing with you. And we'll talk about this just in a moment about how to best participate. Actually, we'll talk about it right now, because here's the slide. So who glides through our program? Students that are really making a consistent effort. And I say consistent because the natural organic flow of this for students is that they start to feel engaged collectively in October, weeks before the deadline. And if you're filling out 10 plus applications, including, if you just include the UC as one application, you can't do all of that in 3 weeks in October. So the reason that we're here to help you is that we are trying to spread the work out. We're getting a lot of work from you for this family meeting one, so that you don't have to worry about it later on and it's not piling up. And the reason that that's so important is that you will get fatigued, right? And if you're waiting till October, you're going to be tired, you're going to be nervous, you're going to feel your own stress, you're going to feel the stress of your peers. October is not a good time to finally step in. September is not a good time to just step in. We really need you to step in with us in June. And if you do that, the process will be a lot more creative. It will be much less stressful. You'll be able to really use this opportunity to explore who you are, figure out what is important to you, figure out what you want to do, and you're going to get so much more out of working with us if you're able to do that. So it's important to be serious. We're serious about working with you, and we want you to be serious about this process. It's your process. We're just here to support your journey and your voyage off through this big life transition into college. Be serious about learning about your college. I would say this is the one thing that students can really flake on, and it's not the thing to flake on because it's the most important piece of your applications. If you don't know your colleges, then you can't present yourself effectively. So start that work now. You can't cram it because colleges are very different, and you need to learn about each one. They might look really similar up front, just on the out, if you just go to their website and you spend 10 minutes there. But actually, the more you dig in, the more you look at the major, the professors, the student activities, the location, the culture, you're going to see that every college is very distinct, and every college thinks they're very distinct. They think they're distinct. They think they're special. So if you don't show that you know what they're about, they're going to pass on you straight up. So this is really important work, and it's not work that we can do for you because you have to write about what the college inspires in you and why you're excited to go. So it's important to be curious. It's important to be open and honest with us because, again, we're here by your side to help you do the best possible work we can. And the more open, the more you share, the more honest you are about what you really think and not just what your peers think, the better your essays are going to be. So with us, with your writing advisors, it's really important if you can, as soon as you possibly can, there's always a moment of warming up, and we'll be getting to know you, and we'll be sharing this information with your writing advisors as well. But the more that you can share and really dive in with all of us, the better. It's really important to stay on our timeline. When you don't, and if you don't do the work authentically and with effort, it's going to backfire later on. So if you decide to step in once you've kind of written your essays halfway through, you're going to have to rewrite all those essays, and it's really not going to be fun. And you're not going to have the best of your resources with you. So we can't double up on writing effort later or writing advising later because you've decided to make an effort later. So you really need to be on our timeline and work with us as we go. As one of our writing advisors loves to say, your October self will thank you. He says this all the time in his meetings with students over the summer, and he does a wonderful job of getting students to the deadline often ahead of time. And feeling really good about what they've written and what they've learned about themselves. So effort is really important. Doing your college research is really important. And this is going to be a little bit of a longer slide because what I'm going to talk about now is what is the difference between liberal arts colleges and universities. And this is really important. So I used to teach at UC Santa Cruz. I taught at the University of San Francisco, and I also taught at Bates College. Those were my three positions when I was a professor. Very different schools. You've got a public UC, you've got a religious private school, medium-sized, and a 1,500 student small liberal arts, small Ivy in Maine, in a small town. So very, very different schools. What are the key differences that you need to know between liberal arts colleges and universities? I'm going to point to Wikipedia here for you all because this is a tremendous resource. So the reason why it's a tremendous resource is it gives you just kind of a very brief overview about why these schools are so important or why they're liberal arts colleges. And the key features are that they focus 100% of their effort on undergraduate education. That's all they do. All their staff, all their programs, all their faculty are focused only on undergraduate education. That's incredible. You can't really understand that until you go to a large university where they are like Stanford, where they're focused on their medical center and their think tanks and their hundreds of their research centers and their graduate students and their master's programs, right? So their energy is focused in many, many different places. And what makes the liberal arts college so special is that's all they do. that everything they've ever done is focused on undergraduate education. This is part of the reason why you have more students going on to graduate school from small liberal arts colleges than you do from large universities. So one of the great things about this list at Wikipedia is it gives you a list of all the small liberal arts colleges all over the United States. You can see Colorado, California, Connecticut. So it's a great list. There are colleges on here that I have, never seen before. So it's always fun for me to jump back in here and see what's on this list. Universities. So how do small liberal arts colleges compare with universities? Universities, so we're also going to go back to Wikipedia and we're going to look at the University of Rochester here. So, well, Wikipedia, if you look at universities, let's just look that up really quickly. So if I go universities, I believe this will pull the right search. Yeah, so here you have university. What is a university? What does it consist of? We're just going back to the basics here, but you'd be amazed. People actually just never kind of took for granted this information. The history, why universities were formed and for whom. It was usually for religious institutions. So universities and colleges started as an outgrowth of the church. And you have a whole history on it. And I don't know if they have a list of all universities here around the country. They might, but in any event, this is a great resource. Let me just scroll quickly. Sorry. Early modern universities. I'm not seeing a list right away. And then different organizations. So yeah, I'm not seeing it. Many of you know about universities. So you know the UCs and the California State Universities. So what makes the university different, and we are just going to look at this slide, University of Rochester, is that they do have think tanks and they do have centers and they have people from all over the world coming to collaborate in these centers and institutes. So if you look at Rochester, for example, you're going to see all of their institutes. And, if you look at a small liberal arts college, they might have 3 or 4. They don't have a ton, but universities have quite a few and they have them across disciplines. So learning in the digital age is a center. The Center for Visual Science is a center of focus. You have centers for neuroscience. And you can just see, you scroll down here. So these are places where generally faculty are collaborating, but I, as a student, would attend a center or an institute when there was a talk going on. So it just shows you sort of what the focus of the university is, what they specialize in, what makes them kind of unique in the university realm. The other thing about universities is they do have internships. So if at a small liberal arts college, you'll do internship and research with your professor, and you'll pretty much be side by side. There might be 5 of you, but you are working very directly with the professor. At a university, you might be working with a graduate student. You might be working with a professor. You're most likely going to be part of a lab or a team, so there are going to be more people involved. So it's a different experience. It's not, I wouldn't say one is better than the other. The nice thing about being doing these internships and research with a professor is that you can get in on their publications if you're lucky, especially in a small liberal arts college. You might be able to get on your professor's paper that they've published. You might go to a conference with them. You'll also have the opportunity to do your own research projects and possibly get a grant to travel to do research for that project. Many small liberal arts colleges have what's called a capstone project, which you start in your junior year and you complete it in your senior year. Generally, that's not as common in a large university. It's just a lot to manage. But many universities, and especially now, are focusing on getting students into research internships. So NYU has a ton. Berkeley, for their engineering students, really emphasize getting internships. So there are a lot of opportunities out there. The way that colleges are taught are very different. So if we look at one of my favorite small liberal arts colleges is Colorado College. And one of the things that makes colleges very different is how do they go about the teaching of their curriculum? What is their curriculum? And at Colorado College, they have what's called the block schedule. And you basically take one interdisciplinary course for 3.5 weeks, and then you switch to a new course that's interdisciplinary on a totally different topic, potentially in fields unrelated to the first course. So this is a really unique program. Students have to design their own block program. So this is really fantastic. It's one of the things that makes small liberal arts colleges unique is they are thinking what's the best way to teach students, and they put a lot of energy into that. If we look at, there's quite a few of these small liberal arts colleges, so you can find them here, the hidden ivies. So this is a great list. There are two lists. The small ivies is actually a more elite list. That term, the small ivies, has been around for a very long time. The hidden ivies is a new term that came out when this book was published in 2000, and it contains small, reputable, highly regarded liberal arts colleges from across the country. And you can see that it's organized in terms of region. And then down here below, they have some other small Ivy League lists, like the Seven Sisters, which is in Amherst. You've got the Jesuit Ivy list or the Little Ivies. So again, these are lists that are really fun to work with and just to discover new colleges. And we'll be sharing this with you as well. There is also the Colleges That Change Lives website. That is a list that was curated and also provides some very interesting options, most of which are located in the Midwest. So we'll be again providing you this slide so you can come in here and kind of go through this. When you're doing your research, what we want you to be looking at are the following. So these are the steps you should take, and you should really be taking them in this order. And you shouldn't be visiting a college until you've taken these steps, ideally. I know many people are already planning their April visits, so you may need to put colleges or destinations on the calendar. But ideally, before you go at the very least, and ideally before you decide where you're going to visit, you want to do some good research. So that means researching the major, the faculty teaching, the subject that you want. So I'm just going to do and share a search with you. So let's say that I'm interested in studying comparative literature at Berkeley. And I really want to kind of understand how they're teaching that subject. I would come in here, and this is for any university, right? Any university or college. Not so important, actually, the Berkeley might not be the best first choice because you won't actually be able to speak directly to Berkeley or their program. But this gives you an idea. So again, we've got a large university here. So there's an undergraduate tab and a graduate tab. You don't want the graduate tab, you want the undergraduate program. And basically it tells you what a typical course plan looks like, what you would be learning. You can dip in here and look at who the faculty are in the program. So up here it says people. That's often what they're using, or it'll say faculty. And you can step in here and see who's teaching in this department. And you can click through to their website and actually learn quite a bit about their courses. So you can see here their courses. They'll often have their publications. So what are they teaching? What are they interested in? And what students end up doing is they end up discovering professors that they actually want to work with when they go off to the campus, and they can write about that in their essays. So that's a great way. Most of your time is going to be spent going to classes and interacting with faculty. You'll be doing a bunch of social things, of course, but the key of what you're paying for, why you're there, your mission to go to a college is really to take courses and to work with faculty if possible. So knowing who these faculty are is really helpful, and getting used to that activity of looking at the courses, looking at how the major is taught, looking at who the faculty are. That gives you a really clear sense of what college is going to be like and what you're going to be doing. Of course, looking at the activities is also important. So you can look at the student life tab, look at the clubs, and kind of get a sense for what are the students like at the college and what are the different activities that you can get involved in. Unigo is one of my favorite student review sites. We will continue to send this around to you. Let's see here. You might have to do a search for it. So we'll go ahead and do Unigo. And let's put, oh, there it is. Just was taking a bit to load. So the great thing about the student review sites is this is the place to go to find out what students really think about their school. So when you go to campus visits, students are going to say it's great. And most of the time you can say, well, what are the pros and cons? What do you love? What don't you love? But the great thing about coming in here is students are pretty honest and they're sharing some details about the college. But the section that I love the most on Unigo is this one under student life. And the reason for that is that you get really the information that you want. So do students drink alcohol and how often are they partying? If you say 80% are partying every single day of the week, you better think twice about whether that's the right environment for you. So they've got also, is there a lot of drug use at the school? Are the professors available and how available are they? So here at Lafayette, 63% are always available. So that's pretty high and that's good. How politically active are students? That might be really important for you. So if only 5% say there's nothing we won't protest, maybe that's not the right place for you. Maybe you want something more invigorated, like probably Berkeley or even NYU or University of Washington or something like that, UCLA. So are there intellectual conversations? If you're the kind of student that really wants to be around smart kids that are talking ideas and concepts a lot, then this might be really important to you. Safety on campus, what's the sports culture like? Here the answers are, we bought the gear and then we live for the big game. So this is another criteria that's very important for students. Some of them really want the kind of environment that they've experienced at Stanford nearby or at Berkeley, or they themselves are just really into sports. So they want to be at a school where sports is really a big deal. Is arts culture a priority? This is becoming increasingly important for students. So we're talking a lot to students about, look, if you want to learn from that kind of culture and that kind of a community, it's really important that you go to a school where artists aren't marginalized, where they're actually part of the culture. So I can't say more enough about Unigo. I love it. Niche is also very good, but I feel like these are the key questions that you need to be asking. And it's a great thing to do if you can before you go visit, because then when you go visit, you're looking out for these things. You may want to say, hey, is it really true that people are partying every day of the week, or are they only partying on the weekends? That's an important question for your health and for your enjoyment of the school. So read student reviews. If you like the school, then you want to attend an event. And there are two ways to do events. You can do them live. So here you've got Baylor University has a whole bunch of virtual things, a campus tour, different discussions about diversity and inclusion. What are the basic things you need to go through the application process at Baylor? Transfer students, that's not really relevant. But this is a way to do this virtually. And there may be other things like discussions with students or discussions with students in specific departments. So that's really great. Sometimes they've got this pre-recorded information. You may also, so yeah, pre-recorded, here we go. So here you have different recorded, like the Department of Psychology or the Department of Computer Science. You've got faculty and students talking about what it's like to be a student there, or you've got this admissions information session video. And then you can also sign up always to actually do a campus admission session live, right? So there are webinars all the time. You click on the calendar and you book one, and then you'll be in front of a live person that's talking about what it's like to be at the school, how to go about applying, and what are the various opportunities that make the college unique. So once you've done those 3 steps, then you're really, really in shape to move forward and go do your campus visits. We do not recommend that you visit Ivies or UCs. And the reason for that is that it takes, that it will have no impact whatsoever on your admissions prospects. If you're admitted, you'll probably go visit and decide. So really, you should be doing this after the fact. And we don't say that for every other school, but definitely for the UC or the Ivies. It really doesn't make sense. The other big danger here is that students can really fall in love with a campus. And again, then they have a dream school. They get really attached to a school that has a 1% or lower admit rate. And just trust me, we're going through this right now with parents that really push their students to apply to schools that were way out of reach. And now they're getting rejections. And it's a very emotional process. If it's emotional for the student, it's even more emotional for parents often to watch their student receiving these rejection letters. So you want to be really strategic. You want to think really carefully about what should those colleges be on the list, and set yourself up for an emotionally healthy experience so that you're applying to places where truly your chances of being admitted are solid. You're not, way out of reach. And you're also have a bunch of schools that you're excited about, so that whatever the results are, you're going somewhere that you're excited to attend. So this is, again, where the campus visits are great, is get out there and see, rather than going to the Ivies, spending your time on travel to go see the Ivies, go see the schools where you actually have a chance of being admitted and get excited about them, because most of the time students do. So that's what we highly recommend. We've been through this many years, and that's really kind of the golden rule, is go visit places that you have a chance of getting into. All right, essays. So and this is our last slide. So again, we're going to be talking to you all about the 3 I's: identity, interest, and impact. And we'll be working with you in the first family meeting to understand what that is. And the reason that we're doing that in the family meeting, and also the reason, parents, that we're asking you to help the student with their first draft of their resume, is that parents know you really, really well. And oftentimes students forget details or maybe they don't realize the importance of a detail. They remember things that their parents don't remember. The parents remember things that they don't remember. Parents, the great thing about helping your student with the resume, and students, the great thing about your parents helping you, is you've got parents that are working in professional spaces and they're interviewing people and they've interviewed before. So actually, it's a wonderful, beautiful opportunity to get to know the professional life of your parents, to learn more about what it's like for them when they've had to interview or when they've interviewed people in the job place. And they know you so well, and they also know what the resume is supposed to detail. So they'll help you to pull those things out. We can help you do that, but we don't sit down to dinner with you every night. And we haven't been with you over years. So your parents are in the best possible position to help you make sure that your resume is fully loaded, really represents everything you've done, and extracts all of the different details of the work that you've done. So resumes are on the rise. You will add them to some of your applications, not all of them. You may be asked to provide one for an interview, but that's part of the reason that we're getting them started early. One, it helps you get to know you better and dive into what your great skill set is. It also helps us to get to know you as we, again, ramp up to write these essays. So the diversity question is showing up in 2 forms this year, or in the previous year. What community do you come from? So, Michigan asked this question. University of Washington, Boulder, Oregon, all of these schools. Well, actually, Boulder stopped asking it. They took it off last year, and they only answer a major question now, which is very interesting. But what community do you come from? And then how will you support our diverse student body? Sometimes those are separate questions. Sometimes they're wed together. But those are the 2 questions that you'll need to answer. And again, we'll be talking to you about how you'll be answering that question by looking at the 3 I's with you. What questions and projects inspire you? That's a question that they're asking a lot, especially in relationship to your major. So what is the major that you've declared on your application? How will you pursue that major at our college? How did you get interested in that major? What have you done to explore your major? These are all questions that have been historically on the application and will continue to be there. And then the impact they also really want to see is who's in for change. Show us that you care. That's really about something, about anything, but show us that you care. I think that they're really looking for students that have their eyes open and aren't navel gazing and are out in the world trying to make a change and impact others for good. So that is, I believe, yes, that is the end of our presentation. Thank you for sticking through it. That was a lot of talking on my part and Kate's part. We are asking if you don't mind to give us feedback. We do this with every webinar and workshop that we'll run. We always get great insight about what we're doing well and what we could do better. So we'd really appreciate any feedback that you might have for us. And we'd also like to hear any questions that you have. Kate's taking note of those, and she's going to present to me the questions that you've asked, and then either one of us will be answering them.
All right. I think, Felicia, it would be helpful to give just sort of a brief overview of the timeline for the writing process. We had a lot of questions about sort of the specifics there, but I think that would sort of clear up some of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the writing process will actually start in family meeting 1 when we discuss with you the 3 I's. So this is just, we're starting the brainstorming process collectively with the family. Then the student will step in and fill out that form where they'll write in more detail about what we discussed in that first meeting. Then in June, early June, hopefully when everybody has finished all their APs and their exams, we're going to be doing a brainstorming workshop, and we'll walk students through a process of writing in more detail about those 3 I's. So the topics that we've discovered with you that are the things that are going to make you stand out in this process. So when we're discussing all of this with you, we're saying, that's great. This is what they want to hear. We're basically giving you feedback and guidance. And then in that brainstorming workshop that we'll be doing in June, you'll be going into those details. So you'll come in with the information knowing that you have things to write about, and we'll be prompting you about how to go about in writing about the details. And you should be able to get quite a bit of writing done in that process. If any of you have writing blocks, if you this will be a creative writing workshop. So, but if any of you know for sure that when you go into workshop environments that you freeze up, please let us know so we can work with you on that. We're going to be there live, so we'll also be able to interact with students during the workshop. Once we have that material from the workshop, Kate and I will be reviewing it. We'll be looking at what we love, what we'd like to see more of, and we'll be introducing you to your writing advisor who's going to be carrying out the summer process of helping you to revise the work. Once something is done, it's sent to us. We review it. We do our final recommendations, and then we table it for later. So what we're doing over the summer is we're building out the UCs. And even if you're not applying to the UCs, the questions that the UCs answer are actually very similar to the questions that other colleges will ask, but they need to be reshaped. So what we do is we build out those UC essays, and we help you to write your personal statement, which will take some time. That's the sort of queen essay for all of your common applications. So you'll be doing the 4 UCs or 3 or 2 UCs if you're not applying to the UCs. And then you'll be writing a personal statement. So we'll be helping you. You'll be meeting, working on a weekly basis, 4 to 6 hours. You'll be getting work into your writing advisor. Your writing advisor will be passing that work along to us and letting us know that it's ready for review. And by August 1st, your personal statement and your 4 UC essays should be wrapped up. So that's 8 or 9 weeks, starting at the beginning of June. It might be closer to 6 to 8 weeks over the summer for many of you because you may still be in summer session. But basically, we're trying to help you to have everything wrapped up by the beginning of August, when you'll start to fill out those applications. That way we can pull the questions from each college. So the essays you write over the summer are for the UC and the personal statement. That material helps you to write some of the supplement essays, although some colleges will come out with their own particular question that has nothing to do with what you've written over the summer, and that will have to be drafted from scratch potentially, or you can draw from certain aspects of what you've written over the summer, but you'll need to add quite a bit. all of the essays for the supplements will have to be framed. So you can't just take something from the UCs and paste it in. You have to reshape it. You have to have a different opener potentially. You have to provide the information showing that you've done your college research and you know why you're a fit and why you want to be at that school. So that's what happens in the months of August and September, and why we want you to have a finalist and fill out those applications so that we know what questions the college is going to ask you. Essay questions are dependent on your major and your college. So the other reason that we're asking you to fill out those applications immediately in August is that it's going to prompt essay questions. So unless you say, I'm interested in attending Viterbi and studying mechanical engineering, you will not get the same questions on your application. So we're asking everybody to go through. Sometimes students have majors and programs that are a little more obscure than anything we've seen before. Colleges change their protocol every single year and have surprises for us. So it's just really important that everybody has their college applications completed so that we know that we have all of the information that is pertinent to you. And we start that process of writing those essays in August, and we complete them by September. So you've got, a month and a half over the summer to get the foundational work done, and then you've got 8-9 weeks starting in August to really work on those supplement essays. And I hope that's clear. You'll be getting students will be getting a timeline, and parents will have access to that so that you can see sort of when we want drafts. In fact, I think what we'll just do is make sure that we send that out in a CAP email, that everybody can see the timeline for when we're hoping to see drafts, knowing that things shift. Students are going to be going abroad. Students are going to be going to programs, and they won't have maybe they don't have internet, or they're unable to get, they don't have the time to get online and do things. So we understand that the summer is busy. But we are going to be working with you to make sure that you are squeezing in time. There's always 4 to 6 hours. If it has to be on Sunday, you do it on Sunday. But this is really the only way for you to work through all of the stuff that you're going to say before you can get to the stuff that you really need to say. So that's just part of the writing process, is you have to say a lot of things that aren't the perfect thing to say before you can get to the thing where you're like, all right, now I'm really presenting myself in my own voice, in the way I want to, that is really honest and specific to who I am. So that takes time. So that's why doing some work every week is important. Hey, if you're going to be backpacking, just take a journal. It's no problem. You can go analog in this whole process. So actually being without internet isn't a roadblock. It just means that you need to use different tools.
Awesome. Thank you. So we do have a couple of questions about the tool, the college data tool. So the most common question is, why no GPA?
Colleges don't provide it. So some of them do, many of them don't. So it's not a common across the board. The other problem with GPA is that GPA is it depends on how many advanced courses you've taken. So we'll be providing that information to you once you come up with a list. But basically, there's something called the common data set that colleges provide to US News, to College Board. They provide it publicly. They're held responsible to provide data about the students that they admit, and they don't include the GPA in that information. So then it's not really clear where that information comes from. Some schools, some search engines might make it up, but it's just not really a factor. So if you are definitely planning to apply to test optional schools, you can let us know. We also have a sense ourselves of what the GPA cutoff might be for some students.
Okay. A couple of quick ones. How many colleges should you be applying to?
So we highly recommend applying, obviously, to the UCs is one, and then 9 other colleges. Reality is that students are applying to more like 15. There are plenty of colleges out there like Northeastern that don't require essays. Case Western doesn't require essays. So in the process of building the list with you, we'll also be looking at what applications can you include in your list, but that you'll be doing those on your own because you don't need to worry about the essay. Now, we're making that judgment call, and a college could come back and add an essay back. So we have had that happen before. So we want to just keep those colleges in the list. And then the other thing that, but we do help with additional schools. So if you want to add more colleges to your list and you want our help with us, we do that. It's $1,500 per application to cover the time with the writing advisor and to cover our time to review the application and the essays with you. And some students choose to have us help them with it if they feel like they're high stakes with the application. Other students will apply to some colleges on their own. And that's one thing that some students were doing over the Christmas break this year, but they had all of their, the colleges that they've done with us done. So it was something that they could use the work that they'd done with us to complete those applications on their own. So that's sort of, those are the different options. Apply to colleges that don't have essays, additional ones, apply to them and you will help you do that, or apply to them on your own.
Do colleges track how often you visit their site, login, pages you click on, follow on social media?
There's good evidence that they do. So yes, this is another reason to do all of that research ahead of time. One step, if you want them to know that you've been there, you probably want to sign up for the mail list when you go in. So look for a way. It's not always easy to find. So usually you go to the About page, but that's one way to make sure that they definitely have your info, whether they're tracking it. It's hard to know. I don't know exactly what all the privacy laws are, but about 7 years ago, there were quite a few articles about the ways that colleges were able to track what you looked at, how many times you were on the website. I mean, people can also, colleges can also kind of, get a sense of, I guess, what you're going to, how much time you're spending. I think that was the other piece, is how much time you're actually spending on the website. So you can obviously go to the website and not do anything and just have the website open. But really, I would just approach this in an organic way. I think trying to beat the system doesn't really necessarily win out. So the best thing to do is just spend time. You're going to need to spend time on those websites in order to write your essays with us. We are going to ask you, well, what is it that you like about that school? And what did you find out about the major? What would you do if you were a student at that school? How would you pursue that major?
Another question, how important is your social media account in the process? Do schools look at them? Do applicants need a LinkedIn?
Students do not need a LinkedIn. If you are busy on social media, in other words, you're having an impact through social media, or part of your identity, and something that would be interesting to colleges, obviously. And you need to be very careful here. So we have stumbled on students' websites where they had, and social media and TikTok accounts where they had materials that probably were less desirable, and a college admissions person might pass if you just don't know who you're dealing with and what the criteria are that they're looking for. So it's best to keep your social media pretty clean, at least until you're admitted, and then you can probably do what you want, unless you have other plans to run for public office or go to graduate school. But it's not a requirement. So some colleges will say if you have a social media site, you can include it here. It's really up to you. They will be searching for sure to see who you are on the internet. And so if you do have a TikTok channel that maybe just don't make it public. And that's true for your Facebook account. Anything that you don't want people to look at, just make it private and make sure that it's not accessible, really. That is something that, can create a little bit of stress for parents and students. So I would have a discussion about that, about sort of is it necessary, first of all, because with most of our students, it's not. but is it necessary to turn your social website on or off and media, and just make that decision? Some students are doing things, so you want to have it on. If you're involved in community projects, or let's say MUN or something like that, then you may want to be running it, or it's part of your program with your robotics to stay in touch that way. It can't hurt to show your collaboration, to show that you're involved in a particular community.
Here's a question. Can you talk about weighted and unweighted GPA relative importance?
Sure. So weighted GPA is important in the sense that taking advanced coursework is important. So your transcript basically reveals whether you've taken an advanced course load or not. And if you go to most college websites, they're going to say, we'd like to see that you've challenged yourself to the greatest extent possible. And some websites even say, we'd like to see at least one advanced course in the area of science or history or whatever it might be. So advanced coursework is important. It is more important to some schools than others. The UCs have their own calculator. You can go to and I'll include this in our follow-up notes as well. The GPA calculator allows you to look at your weighted UC GPA, but it's often also included on your transcript with UC A through G. That's your UC GPA, but it doesn't hurt to go through the calculator and see what your UC GPA is. For all the other schools, you want to provide your weighted GPA on your application, and they're going to see all of the courses that you take on your transcript. They may go in and recalculate your GPA. So some schools go in, they have their own formula that they don't include ninth grade. And they go in and they calculate your GPA anew. Not everybody, and certainly not big schools. They just don't have the resources to do that. So you can provide your unweighted or your weighted GPA on the common application. We generally recommend that you provide your weighted GPA unless your weighted GPA isn't much different than your unweighted GPA, and then you can just decide. But yes, weighted GPA is important. Some schools do not provide a weighted GPA. That is not something to worry about. Colleges are aware of they get a school report, and they also are aware of the histories of different high schools. So some schools don't even have grades, and they know this, so they're used to that system. So you can't provide a weighted GPA if you don't have one, and you certainly shouldn't try to calculate it on your own. So
excellent. One more question. So can we speak, I think, a little bit about why we require the college list so early? End of June, a lot of people sort of think, oh my goodness, there's months to go until applications are due. So what's our rationale there?
right. So basically, what's important is that you all are landing on a list that you feel good about. We need to take a look at that, and then we need to review it with you. So we need that time in July, right? So if it's due by end of June, then we've got 1 month, and then the applications go live August 1st. And your high school is going to want to know what your college list is. We can't figure out what your essay questions are if you don't know your college list by August 1st. So we have to hit the ground running August 1st and know exactly what colleges you're going, at least the 10 colleges you're applying to with us, or 15. We need to know that by August 1st so that we can start to get you going on your essays immediately. So that's why, basically. And the high schools expect you to come in with a finished college list. They might meet with you as late as September and suggest other schools. If you can get your counselor meeting in early August, that's great. Don't be surprised if they recommend more safety schools. That's basically the position of most counselors at private and public schools. And don't let it discourage you. That's their job, and they want to make sure you're going to get in. And most of the time, they only think that they only feel confident knowing that students will get in to their safeties. So that's a conversation we have a lot in the fall, but that's basically why, is that we are kind of restricted by when the Common App launches. If the Common App launched a bit earlier, this process would be, even June, it would be much easier for us, but it actually launches somewhat late. You can add schools potentially after that, but we need to know what your core list is. And ideally, we have all of those schools by June so that we can help you over the summer. Thinking also about your personal statement and who you're speaking to. That's also important. And also, as we're writing these core foundational essays about your community impact, about your major, about skills that you have that set you apart. It's important that we have a sense of what kinds of colleges you're applying to. So that's why we've set this timeline. And it's also just to make sure that you're taking advantage of these 6 months right now to do that work rather than trying to cram it in over the summer.
All right, that's all of the questions we have in the Q&A.
Great. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you so much for being here. We're really excited to get started, and we've just really enjoyed our interaction so far with students. It's always fun to start a new cohort and get to know new students and see all their enthusiasm and excitement. So we're really looking forward to seeing you all. And if you have any questions about anything we've said today, please circle back. Again, we're here. I can't emphasize this enough. Please feel free to reach out at any time. We're really happy to answer your questions, and we'll be reaching out to you. And parents will be checking in with you as well every once in a while. Sometimes we'll be texting the whole family to say, hey, how are things going? How's that college list coming along? Any questions about campus visits, that kind of thing. So that's kind of the way that you can expect to be hearing from us. And then again, if you want to meet at any time, we're here. Often people have questions now about their summer, what they're choosing for the summer or course selection for senior year. We will be discussing that in Family Meeting 1. If you have deadlines that are coming up before that, you might shoot us an email at hello@Fahey Associates so that we can address that with you promptly. Okay, thank you, everybody. Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to see you all. Thank you for being with us, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday.